Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting on March 25th, 2024. Let me start by saying that the city of Dieppe recognizes that the land on which it operates is part of the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq. As well, dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, so once again, welcome to everyone. I am calling the meeting open, or opening the meeting rather. We do have quorum, yes, okay. Did we receive any conflicts of interests? Any declarations of conflict of interest? Nothing, okay. All right, so I will continue. Adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Leboutier, that the agenda be adopted as presented on the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The agenda is adopted as presented. Item number 7, presentations, inquiries, and petitions. 7.1, inquiries by council members. Kodiak Regional RCMP. And with us tonight, we have Inspector Chantal Farah. Good evening and welcome. Welcome. Good evening. I have 3 things that I want to bring to your attention this evening because I want to communicate what's happening. With regard to community police, we have an awareness raising month on different types of fraud and the ways and the ways that citizens can keep informed so that they can avoid being the victims. So if there are organizations or groups in Dieppe that would like to have a presentation on fraud and how to prevent it, contact us by email or just contact me directly and I'll put you in charge of or in contact with the unit. Now we know that the best way to fight fraud is to educate oneself. So that's why we encourage people to take training. And there's also a lot of good information online. So the Anti-Fraud Center of Canada, if you have time, go onto the website. Everything's up to date. All the trends are there. So things that are really obvious or really clear, you'll have information on how you can avoid falling victim to fraud. I also wanted to talk about things that helped in. So on March 14th, Amanda Chloe Shannon, a 23-year-old resident of Dieppe, appeared in provincial court in Moncton, and she was sentenced to an 8-month sentence for possession of fentanyl, and she was also sentenced to an additional year. And now I talked to you about something that I talked about last summer. There was an operation that took place in 3 areas of our region. It was led by the crime reduction unit with the assistance of my group in Kodiak and then the dog service as well. We executed 3 simultaneous warrants on Murphy Avenue in Moncton. And there was another residence on Chianti's Road in Dieppe, and there was another location in Irishtown. Now, it was a large search. There was over 8 kilos of methamphetamine and other drugs. And I also wanted to talk to you about on March 14th, Stephen Blackwood, a 37-year-old man was sentenced to an additional 18 months of jail time on top of his remand time, as well as 15 years of probation with strict conditions upon his release. So, and that is under the criminal code. That will be in effect for 15 minutes. So this person will not be able to go to residences or places where there could be young children, so community centers, pools, etc. He was convicted of numerous counts of voyeurism, sexual assault, and sexual interference. So these took place in our region, and we've been investigating since November 2022. So that's my updates for this evening. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Godbout. Thank you. My question is both for the RCMP and for staff, but how could we share the information that we've received this evening from the inspector in terms of the presentation? So is there something you could send us in writing that we could give to our community groups? Our community groups here in Dieppe, the recognized ones, so that we can kind of get the information out directly. I'm not sure that they're listening to us tonight. These are committed volunteers, so I don't know if could you send us a little bit of information with that, an email with that information? And then who should I send that information to? Communications department, maybe? Yes. Annie, maybe? I'll ask my communications person to contact your communications person. They will be both of them will be able to communicate with each other. All right, and the idea again is to share that with our the groups that could benefit from this. So, we ask that community police be more available, and so this is a response to what we've been hearing from the public. And we also heard last week in the presentations that there's a lot of people that don't know that certain services exist, that they're around. So thank you for the information. All right. In terms of fraud, and maybe that's something that you could send to the communications department as well. And maybe there are groups that we could target in our group that are more maybe vulnerable to fraud. That would be useful to have that information. And, I'm thinking of seniors groups, for example. If maybe we can get that information to them. So if that's possible, please do that. All right, certainly. Anyone else? All right, then let's carry on. Questions from our vast public? No questions for councillors? All right, we will then move on to the adoption of minutes, moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau. On the question? No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries as presented. That brings us to regular council meeting. No, sorry, we're at item 10.1, Mr. Melanson. All right, well, here we have two directives that we're making public tonight. We're making this public. Just in 1 second. All right, so the first matter you have before you, this was an agreement that we developed with the province. We started the process to relocate 6 Gauvin residents, and then following an initiative by the province, we had made a request to have a second 10-unit facility. So we've been discussing this with the province for the last 15 months, and we've finally arrived at an agreement. So we're going to proceed with a second 10-unit building that will be built on Melançon Road. So this was an agreement that was finally reached. So that basically doubles the number of units available. Yes. So the current residents will be relocated to Melançon Road, and then now there will be a second building. And thank you for pointing that out, Your Worship. The second directive that we're making public is regards the expropriation of property located on Gauvin Road. So the process has been completed, and we arrived at an additional compensation in the amount of $75,000. And it was in compensation of a property worth $450,500. And it also, there was also another amount. And so that completes that file of acquisition of land at 271 to 275 Gauvin Road. So those were two matters that were held in a closed meeting. So there were negotiations that took place, and in Dieppe, once the matter is completed, we have we make those matters public, those discussions public. So who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Jeannet, please. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council ratify the directives adopted at closed meetings of Council concerning the following topics. 1, affordable housing, 10-unit building, Melançon Road, adopted on January 9th, 2023. And 2, payment authorization, expropriation, properly located at 271, 275 Gauvin Road, adopted January 8th, 2024. So moved. Moved by Councillor Jeannet, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. Seeing no questions, those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries as presented. Moving now to item 10.2 on operations. Mr. Melançon. All right, this is the period of the year where we're starting to see potholes. So following an RFP, we received 5 bids rather, and we recommend going with Dexter Construction Company Limited at the cost of $740,000 and $700 plus HST. So once the ground thaws, the work will be done. So this motion allows us to sign with that company. All right, who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Lantaigne, please. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council award the tender for the project entitled 2024 Asphalt Repairs to the lowest bidder, Dexter Construction Company Limited, at the cost of $747,700 plus HST, and authorize this expenditure be defrayed from the general operating budget and the water and sewer operating budget accounts listed in the memorandum relating to said project dated March 12th, 2024. So I so move. Moved by Councillor Lantaigne, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. No, seeing no questions, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries as presented. Item 10.3.1, Mr. Melançon. All right, here, Your Worship, you have policy A41, corporate visibility. And as you know, on the 3rd month of the month, we have the Strategy and Policy Committee. So that policy was presented at that meeting. You had lots of questions. So Luc Richard is going to summarize what was changed to the policy, and then we'll go to the adoption. So Could you open Mr. Richard's mic, please? Where is he seated? Okay. Sometimes they move around. All right, thank you very much. All right, just to follow up on the meeting that was held on the standing policy committee on policy and strategy. There were lots of questions about this zoning bylaw. We did some research with other municipalities to see what they did. Now, if you look at C3, you'll see what's described in terms of advertising space, and that's the big change to the policy. When we had presented the information to you at the standing committee meeting, we had talked mainly about the principles and that it was our intention to come back with a more thorough text. So what we added, now if what we've added is okay with you, this is what we're presenting for your consideration tonight. All right, before we go to questions, let's see if there's someone who wants to propose reading of. All right, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. And who would like to second? Councillor Thibodeau. All right, thank you. Now, are there any questions? Any questions from councillors? And Councillor Turgeon-Roy, please. All right, so just to come back to the idea of corporate visibility. Now, the question was the study of New Focus. In the study, they recommended hiring someone outside the city to coordinate the selling of those spaces. Well, that's one option that we could consider, yes. If the association sector wants to do it themselves, we'll let them do it. We'll let them take care of the recruiting. And the policy talks about the roles and responsibilities. And as a matter of fact, we've already spoken with some of the groups. And I think there's a bit of a mixed feeling about that option. So some groups might prefer that some groups prefer that we do it through a third party. We can take care of that as well. All right. Is that it? Councillor Leboutier, please. Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to know more about the summary. Now, this is a great initiative, by the way. For all our associations, it's going to have an impact, and things will change as well. When we talk about infrastructure, now, and I think we talked about this the last time, it seems to me that we did, but why don't we, now I understand the Uniplex, we have some advertising space, but why are we not considering the other infrastructure? So the analysis carried out by New Focus looked at outside infrastructure, but the policy that we're recommending tonight includes everything, arenas, all the infrastructure, basically. We already have advertising space, and the policy will govern those places. But what we haven't yet done in the arenas is to assess the value of the advertising spaces. And so that's what New Focus is looking at now. And probably by the end of the summer, they'll come back with an analysis, like how many spaces there are, what we can charge for those. And there were also kits that were included. So the details of the kits and the value of the advertising spaces, that's work that has yet to be done. All right. Councillor Godbout, please. I think this was covered in your response, but I just want to clarify. So recreational infrastructure and sports infrastructure, do the green space, will this policy apply to natural and green spaces? No, we don't talk about trails or parks or anything like that. Okay, so when we're talking about recreational infrastructure, we're talking about buildings, basically, or football fields, the dog park, but not Rotary Park, not the trails. That's something that, the philosophy in the area is that those spaces, we don't want advertising in those spaces because we really want people to kind of disconnect. That's not like another infrastructure. Well, because the wording in the text is infrastructure is quite a broad term. So I don't know if we can clarify that, specify. We don't have to change this policy, but maybe we can do an internal directive. So if people have, ask us questions, in 5 years and we're not the same people around the table, then we'll know what to answer. All right. Any other questions? Mr. Richard, you have a comment? Well, I have to give the credit to my colleague Pauline Cormier. She's the one who led this file, and I know she's not here tonight, but she's the one who did most of the work here. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, thank you. Councillor Cormier, please. Or thanks to Miss Cormier, rather. All right, those in favor signify by saying aye. And opposed, nay. The motion passes as presented. All right, that brings us to 11.1, zoning bylaw Z10 2021-11, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. So who would like to do first reading? Oh, sorry. First reading in its entirety. Who is the lucky reader? Councillor Thibodeau. Bylaw Z10 2021-11, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. The Council of the City of Dieppe, under the authority vested in it by the Community Planning Act, SNB 2017 C19, enacts as follows. The City of Dieppe zoning bylaw, being bylaw Z-10 2021, enacted on April 12, 2021, and filed in the Westmoreland County Registry Office as number 411-73189 on April 15, 2021, is hereby amended as follows. 1, paragraph 6.51A is amended by adding the following. Mini storage warehouse, subject to paragraph 6.53F. 2, subsection 6.53 is amended by adding the following. F, where permitted under subsection 6.51, a mini storage warehouse, 1, shall be within a main building containing a minimum of 2 stories above the grade of the street, and 2, shall include a combination of 1 or more other authorized commercial uses within at least the first 5 meters of horizontal distance from the exterior walls along the street facades of the building containing the mini storage warehouse use. 3, shall not include any outdoor storage area. 4, shall have no less than 25% per story of the street facades composed of windows. 5, shall not have a fenestration ratio facing the interior of a storage unit. And 6, shall have all garage doors located elsewhere than on the street facade. I so move. Worship. In first reading in its entirety. Seconded by Councillor Jeannet. On the question. Seeing no questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. So the bylaw Z10 is accepted in first reading. And now we'll move to third reading by title. Thank you, Your Worship. Bylaw Z-10, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. I so move by title only in third reading. Moved in third and final reading by Councillor Thibodeau. Seconded again by Councillor Jeannet on the question. No questions. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The bylaw is accepted in third reading. Moving to item 12 now. Notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion that have been received? Nothing to present this evening, Your Worship. All right. Item 13, inquiries. Councillor Godet, it's your turn to start.
Non, moi, j'ai pas grand-chose. Je voulais juste souhaiter joyeuse.
I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Easter and a happy long weekend, and that's all for me.
Monsieur le maire, ça sera bref pour moi aussi, mais
Councillor Leboutillier, yes, thank you, Your Worship. It'll be very short for me too. Now, for the Gauvin Street and the construction that's going to be there, is it going to be starting this spring, this fall, or are we just still on the plans at this point? We're going to get a schedule of all of the work that is to be done in 2024. My colleague, Mr. Cormier, has the details, I believe. Yes, thank you for your question. This summer, there will be work done on Gauvin. We're talking about the roundabout at La France and Gauvin, and then there's going to be the repaving of Gauvin right up to Pascal Street from the roundabout to Pascal Street. Well, and when it's going to be repaved, are you going to do water and sewage at the same time, or is that already in place? Water and sewage, part of it has already been done around the roundabout right up to Thomas Street, but from Thomas to Pascal, there are certain sections where there are local repairs to be done. It's not a complete installation. So it will take a certain time. Yeah, okay, well, thanks for the answer. Well, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter, a good Easter break. And I'd like to congratulate the hockey team from Mathieu Martin, who won the provincial championship this weekend. So thank you. That's all for me this evening. Thank you. And I would just like to add on the roundabout, and we're going to have to talk to our citizens about this because it's something that's been planned. I think, if I remember correctly, it's been at least 5 or 6 years or more. Maybe even 10 years ago, we already acquired some of the land around there. We had done all of that back then. But it might be a good idea to remind our residents that we know with the traffic on Gauvin Street now, today, and if you go there at traffic hour in the morning to bring your kids to school, if you're going elsewhere in that area, it might become a little difficult, but I'm really happy to see that finally we're moving ahead on it. But there will be some headaches before it's done. Now, Councillor Jeannet. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question. There's something very infrequent that is going to be happening soon on April 8th, the total eclipse of the sun. There's been a lot of communication on this, but are we going to explain best practices to people? Because it is dangerous for your eyes if people try to look at this directly. So do we have any glasses that we can distribute to our residents here at City Hall? Before the solar eclipse? Good evening. Well, for communication, yes, we have some communication planned to inform people and to give them links, the credible links, because a lot of information is going around, but to give them credible links on how to get information now. In terms of the glasses, as far as I know, no, but perhaps one of the other departments has acquired some that I'm not aware of. No, we didn't even prepare for getting glasses without knowing quantities, so we didn't want to waste any either. But I know you can get some at some optometrists' offices, and they're a good source. You know, go see your optometrist's office. That's just an example. Or you can get them online, but make sure that you make sure that they're safe. And perhaps that would be something we could add to the communications to tell people where to obtain them, because I didn't know where to get them myself. I mean, they're pretty special glasses. Well, it might not be as fast, as easy as just deciding, you know, that you want them. What's important though is to get the glasses, the proper protective glasses, if you want to look at the solar eclipse. Thank you. Have a good evening. Thank you. Councillor Brideau. Councillor, Your Worship. Well, same for me. I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter, to all the residents of Dieppe, and to all my colleagues here on the Dieppe Council. Have a happy Easter. Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you. I had two things to bring up, but they were the same ones as Councillor Le Boutillier. I'd like to congratulate the Matadors from Mathieu Martin for their provincial championship, the high school championship, and I'd like to wish a great Easter break and happy Easter to everyone. Thank you, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to mention that during the Day of the Francophonie, I had the honor of participating in the harvest at the Uniplex from the greenhouse, accompanied by 8 students from Mathieu Martin, 8 students that are immigrants here. And so it's in a program to teach them French. And at the same time, we got 2 birds with the one stone. We taught them about aeroponics, which is a form of growing fruits and vegetables without earth. You can grow different lettuces, basil, peppers, squash, all sorts of vegetables. And so they had a lot of fun while they were learning French. So it was really nice. It was really nice to see in our city. And furthermore, they did some good because they were able to prepare salads and to give it all of these to the food bank, the Second Chance Food Bank. So I'd like to congratulate them. I'd also like to congratulate Chantal Como, their teacher, and the Garden Cities group, as well as the municipality, participated fully in this adventure. And I don't think it's going to end there. I think we're going to see it again. So if you have the chance to visit the greenhouse, go see it. It's really well organized. It's really a jewel here in our municipality. Thank you. That's all for me, and have a happy Easter. Councillor Godbout. A few comments and sharing of information this evening. I'd just like to take a minute to come back to the presentation that we heard last week at our meeting, and especially the ones on property tax assessments. Several of us know that we have challenges here and that we have to try and take care of by using mechanisms that have been existed since the 18th century, the 19th century, and these are 21st century problems. And in the presentation, one of the issues that hadn't come out in the discussions, because people ask, well, why is it done this way in Dieppe and it's done differently in other provinces, in other cities? But at the end of the day, taxes are calculated 3 ways. They're consumer taxes, income taxes, and property taxes. The only one that here at our table, we can have an influence on how we use the property tax, but we don't have any influence on how much we receive. So our power is limited. But in spite of that, what I see around the table and with the staff, I've seen it for years as well, it's really the sincere desire to maintain the balance in the quality of life and the progress. And I really appreciated the citizens who came to present their perspective. These are our clients. These are the people that we're trying to serve. So a big word of thanks to people who participated in the presentation. And I'd like to encourage them to continue to give us this feedback, because there's nothing better than listening to our citizens, especially on an issue as important as taxes, which is so important. It's one of the biggest powers we have as a government is taxes. And so we have to be very careful with what we do with that. And thank you to all of the citizens who took the time to do the exercise and to bring it with us in such a reasoned and considerate way. And I found it really interesting that they stayed to listen to the rest of the meeting. So they came, they got involved, and I hope they'll continue to come see us. So that we do have the challenges of growth and how to maintain our quality of life. I look at what we do every day that doesn't go unnoticed. If just the rezoning of this evening, it might seem so trivial, but when you have a difference, when you see that there's a difference, there's a great when people live in rental spaces, well, they need storage. I mean, it seems trivial, but it's important to people who need them. So we're creating opportunities for that. So I'd like to thank people who pay attention to these needs. And so anyhow, just some thoughts that I had on the presentations from last week. Now, I'd just like to raise another point on the CRPA. Last week, the City of Moncton had approved a resolution to support the recommendations included in the Perivale-Taylor report on police services. You'll remember a report had been commissioned by the three cities, and Dieppe and Riverview had already approved the report. Moncton just did so. Now, very shortly afterwards, the CRPA announced that they were eager to work with the municipalities to help implement these recommendations. And I'd like to share with you that since January, but again, last week, we had a strategic planning session, and we're planning on tabling a strategic plan at the April 18th meeting of the CRPA. There's still some opportunity to bring some minor amendments and do consultations with the public. But if people would like to give us feedback on the strategic plan, that they'll have the chance on April 18th. Thank you. That's all for me. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Lantaigne. Your Worship, when you go last, everything's already been said. Everything I wanted to say has already been said, but happy Easter to everyone, and be careful on the roads if you're traveling. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you to everybody for your participation. I just wanted to add that we participated, the CAO and myself participated in an annual meeting of the New-Brunswick Union of Municipalities. And for the first time, all of the cities of the province are included now in this association, this union. The deputy mayor was there as well with us, with our delegation, and we learned a lot, more specifically during two presentations on municipal financing, how it's done in Saskatchewan and in Quebec. There's a big difference in the way it's managed in these two provinces specifically, and other provinces are in the same situation. It's tax dollars from the government or from the governments in the case of Saskatchewan and Quebec that are transferred every year. It's a part of their daily living, if you will. Every year there are transfers based on the taxes that the government, the consumer taxes that the governments receive and other taxes. And you can talk about your experience in Quebec as well, but it was really interesting. And I have the impression that was very well received by all communities because you know where you know exactly what to expect. You know how much money you're going to receive, and you know that the provincial government doesn't keep all of that money to dispose of it the way they will. And so a good part of it goes back to the municipalities. So I'm convinced that our new association is going to help put a lot of pressure on the provincial government in order to encourage this. So that was the big event for me last week. I was on vacation before that, and I'm sure you didn't miss me at all. But on that, happy Easter, and don't leave your eggs lying around because I will find them. Have a great evening, everyone.